In this video, we will see how C program is executed. Step 1. Preprocessor. The source file is given as an input to the preprocessor. The preprocessor processes the source file and produces an output file called source.i. What is preprocessor? Preprocessor scans the source code for preprocessor directives. That is nothing but the lines start with # symbol. The directives such as #include, #define, and #ifdef are processed. The preprocessor produces an intermediate preprocessor output file called source.i. Include directive. This directive is used to include the contents of another file to the current file. Example, #include stdio.h. This directive tells the preprocessor to include the contents of the standard input-output library, that is stdio.h, into the current file. Step 2. Compiler. The output of the preprocessor is given as the input to the compiler. The compiler then processes this input and generates an assembly code file called source.s. What is happening inside a compiler? Step 1. Lexical analysis, scanning. The compiler starts by scanning the intermediate source code produced by preprocessor character by character, breaking it into meaningful chunks like words, numbers, and symbols. For example, the statement int x equal to 10 is broken down into int x equal and 10. Step 2. Syntax analysis, grammar rules. The compiler analyzes the structure of the code based on the grammar rules of C language. It checks for syntax errors. Similar to English language, the C language has also some grammar rules which are to be obeyed. Example, ensuring that statements are correctly formed, such as matching opening and closing braces in a block of code. Step 3. Semantic analysis. Semantics refers to the meaning or interpretation of code. It checks whether the code makes sense according to the rules and conventions of the programming language. Example, verifying that a variable is declared before it is used. In C language, a variable should be declared before it is used. Another example, whether a data is correctly matched with its type, like a integer data must be matched with its integer type. Step 4. Intermediate code generation. The compiler generates an intermediate representation of the source code. This intermediate code is called assembly code. The third step is the assembler. It takes the assembly code generated by the compiler as input and produces a source.o file, which is an object file. What is happening inside an assembler? When a compiler produces assembly code as its output, it is generating human-readable assembly instructions or assembly language that corresponds to the high-level C language. The assembler reads this assembly code and translates each assembly instruction into equivalent binary machine code, that is zeros and ones. Assembly code itself represents human-readable instructions that directly corresponds to machine instructions. The output of the assembler is object code, which consists of binary machine instructions along with the additional metadata such as relocation information and symbol tables. This object file is in a format that is ready to be linked with other object files and libraries by the linker in the next step. The final step is the linker. It takes object file produced by assembler as an input. The linker also takes external object files or library object files which are readily available to be used as inputs. The linker then combines these multiple object files and produces a single executable file as an output. What is linker? The linker is the program responsible for combining multiple object files and libraries into a single executable program. The object files contains machine code instructions and data, but they may have unresolved references to functions and variables defined in other object files or libraries. In our C program, we might use features or functions defined in other external files or in C libraries. These external libraries or files contains pre-written code that we can leverage to perform various tasks. We can use them to perform different tasks such as input-output operations, mathematical calculations, or complex algorithms. The linker plays a crucial role in the execution of our program by resolving references to these external files and C libraries. It ensures that when our program calls a function or uses a feature from an external source, it knows where to find the corresponding code. The linker connects these references in our object files to the definitions in the external files or libraries. The linker acts as a bridge between our program and external resources, ensuring that all dependencies are resolved and that the program can run smoothly and efficiently. The linker finally produces an executable file. The executable file generated by the linker is typically an executable program that can be run directly on the computer's operating system. The file contains compiled machine code, that is zeros and ones instructions from the source code, along with any necessary libraries and resources linked by the linker. Let us see what happens when we run our C program. As you can see, an .exe, that is an executable file, is created. All the compilation process is hidden from the user. Thank you.